of it. So you love the fact that you can have those big plays down the field, and Mooney and Drake London are making them. But I do think that will be the one thing to pay attention to with Michael Penix is, can he just learn a little bit more of the completion-centric ball efficiency demand this league has?
If you're watching with an eagle eye, you're noticing that Kirk Cousins, of course, still out there. Adam,
it felt awkward looking at him.
I agree.
I was like, when he went with his rep, I'm like, who is that? Like, who's going after Penix?
We all kind of had the same thought. And I think for fans, I mean, I'm curious about this too, Adam. It's quiet right now, but is there potentially an appetite if Atlanta could get enough money? Maybe there's a team that needs a quarterback. Somebody, God forbid, gets injured. Do you see him being moved?
Well, that's the whole thing. There's nobody right now that you could say needs a quarterback. There's nobody that needs a quarterback and would be willing to pay the money today. But the moment Justin Fields goes down, your mind wanders to Atlanta. The Jets are going to check in on Kirk Cousins. Fortunately, it was not a serious injury. There's no need for the Jets to do that. But that's what's going to happen. If there's a quarterback that unfortunately gets hurt at all this summer, everybody's first thought would be, will they call Atlanta for Kirk Cousins right now?
The quarterback room's so deep there, Dan. What do you think? I mean, you're watching Cousins right now. The problem last year was it felt like he was a shell of himself. But is there still enough in the tank where he could contribute well to another team?
I do. I just don't think if I'm Atlanta, I move off of him.
Interesting.
Well, here's my thing. When they made the decision to draft Michael Penix, they were comfortable with the situation for at least 2 years. Whatever the order was, they were comfortable with it. You just talked about Field, how they took next year's #1 pick to go up. They know that this year's a really important year for them to have some really good foundational success.
Totally.
I don't know if they really care, and maybe that's not the best. Who the quarterback is leading it. Right. They want to go win. They want to start to establish a winning culture and win football games and be a playoff contender. And if Michael Penix is the guy for this year and Kirk Cousins is the backup, so be it. As long as those pass rushers hit, because they don't have a first-round pick next year. So if I'm Atlanta, I want to protect that position by all costs, just like I did last year. And I think that this is a dangerous football team. I really do. You guys know the pass rushers better than me. But if Michael Penix is really good, everyone's penciling in Tampa Bay to win the division, probably rightfully so. If Penix is really good, man, this team's got a chance to win 10, 11 games.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, too. That division, though, it seems like, and, you know, I don't want to say this and besmirch teams, but it could be more winnable than other divisions. They feel very confident.
Tampa's the heavy favorite.
Totally.
And again, they deserve that. But that's
this isn't the AFC West or the NFC North.
Two of the teams have quarterback situations we really have no clue about.
Are we counting out my Saints?
We'll talk about the Saints later, I promise. Now they're your Saints. Interesting. All right, so table that. That's a big tease.
It rhymes with buck.
That is one quarterback room. How about this quarterback room? The Browns quarterback play. You are the biggest fan of Tyler Shuck. But let's talk about the Browns. They thought they were getting a solution at quarterback when they traded for Deshaun Watson in 2022. It's brought on more problems, as we know. In that span, their QB room has the worst touchdown to interception ratio in completion percentage. They also rank 4th worst in yards per attempt and total QBR. It's bad, right? And we're going to bring in Jeremy Fowler to give us the insight there from Browns camp. You've been watching this. You've been around, Jeremy. What can you tell us about that quarterback competition between 4 guys that are all in very different situations?
Laura, I just spoke to head coach Kevin Stefanski coming off the practice field. He told me that we're simply not there yet as far as a pecking order for the 4-man quarterback battle, and probably won't be for the next week. He's thinking deeper into August, closer to preseason action, where he'll sort that out. Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco have been going back and forth with the first-team reps. Today, Pickett got the first crack in 7-on-7. I'm told he has had a really strong last few days, so making a little bit of a push. Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders have both been early risers, hard workers in the building, Stefanski told me. They've been pleased with Dylan Gabriel's ability in play action, which is such a big part of this offense. He's looked slick in that area so far. Shedeur Sanders had a live arm from what I just observed. And then you mentioned Deshaun Watson, Laura. Funny observation here. Interesting enough, I saw Watson lifting weights in the weight room adjacent to the practice field. A lot of weight on the lunges. He was getting after it. And I'm told that he's working incredibly hard to make his way back eventually, whether that's in Cleveland or somewhere else.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Yeah, we've kind of said he's the forgotten piece in all this in a lot of ways. Thanks to Jeremy, we will check back in on Browns camp a little bit later right there. Saquon Barkley, he's busting some moves too. Little different moves than we just saw from Jeremy Fowler. Thank goodness for Saquon Barkley. We go live there. We'll be looking at everything happening at Eagles camp, of course. And there's a lot of expectations around this team, right? And there's so much talk about the departures. Are they going to look so different because they are a different team in a lot of ways, especially on the defensive side? But let's zero in on the offense, Dan, as you look at Saquon. With him as a centerpiece for Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, doesn't that make you feel pretty good?
Yeah, this still the best offensive line in football as well. So, in the best wide receiver core, or at least duo in the NFL, certainly one of them. The question is under Kevin Patullo, who's taking over as offensive coordinator, just how much this offense will change, if at all. Yep. You know, I do think that last year it became very clear that Kellen Moore, who was the play caller, now the head coach in New Orleans, was we're going to run you. We're going to run until we literally can't anymore. We are not going to try to over-confuse you. We're just going to try to dominate the line of scrimmage and break the rushing record. Is Kevin Patullo that disciplined? Are you willing to be that boring at times? And I think that with Nick Sirianni hiring him, that would have to be the philosophy. I don't think this offense changes that much. I really don't. There's not a lot of question marks about this football team. There certainly are not any on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, he said this morning, Kevin Patullo did, this is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles offense as you know it. Worth noting, he's been with Nick Sirianni for nearly a decade, so this is not somebody who is an external hire who is saying the right things at this time, but might look a lot different come September 4th when they play host to the Dallas Cowboys. The question, if there is one for me with Philadelphia, is probably twofold, is that it's just really hard to repeat in the NFL. The Chiefs just did it a couple of years ago, but prior to that, it had been the longest gap in league history without a repeat champion. You have this big target on your back. And then second of all, they've been planning for this, is that they did lose a lot of legitimate pieces on the defensive side of the ball. Players that are gone include, but aren't limited to, Milton Williams, who signed a $100+ million contract with the Patriots. Josh Sweat, who got $19 million a year from the Arizona Cardinals. Avonte Maddox and Darius Slay in the secondary.
Brandon Graham.
Yep, Brandon Graham. Yep, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. The Eagles have been planning for this stuff. Not that Nolan Smith wasn't a factor last year, but how much more does he grow this year? Because he probably will be their most important edge rusher now. And Jalix Hunt, who they drafted a couple of years ago. This is what Philly does. Part of the reason why they have been so masterful at drafting is they're almost always drafting for value and not need. But until you see these guys play close to full-time roles or more prominent roles, there's a bit of an element of projection. But we're sort of looking for warts here for a team that is borderline flawless.
One thing I want to point out, Jahad Campbell was a guy that we thought would have got drafted a lot higher had he not been injured, and he's already out there.
Well, let me say
pretty
this.
good.
They felt like this was worth the roll of the dice because they believed he was a top 10 player in this draft. And the reason he fell in the draft, I believe, was because of a shoulder and knee. Shoulder and knee, and there were concerns medically about how long he might last in the NFL. But if you took the knee and shoulder concerns away from it, you could do you mean a top 10 pick, top 5?
He's a great-looking athlete. Great-looking athlete. You know, what's cool about this team that gives you some sense of comfort on the defensive side with so many young guys that they're trying to bring along. Like, when you look at guys like Ojimo and Jalix Hunt, young guys like that, is the fact that Vic Fangio, their defensive coordinator, that's exactly the kind of guys that you want to have him with. Guys who he can mold, he can coach, he can bring up in his system, that aren't necessarily guys who are kind of like set in their ways and want to do things their own way. They're going to follow the lead of the master right there, right, so to speak. Vic fits this football team perfectly. I think Vic is perfect for a young team, a young group of players, which is exactly the opposite of the way it looked in Miami.
Yeah, good point.
Where he had a lot of strong personalities, guys who wanted to do some things a little bit differently. They butted heads, and he was like, you know what, I'm out of here. I'm up to Philly. So I'm not, I mean, of course you worry about it, but look, they drafted some studs this year. And don't forget the name Andrew McCouber.
Point.
He is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He's the same person with maybe better cover skills.
Well,
We're looking at Jalen Hurts now, but we were seeing A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley working on something. It was pretty cool. I don't know if we can cut back to that, but
it looked like the A.J. was probably sharing some route running stuff with Saquon. Like you can see A.J. kind of talking about some of the
crossover, didn't it?
Yeah, that's why you saw, like, remember the Myles Garrett pass rushing thing, some of the patience.
There they are,
See
yeah.
that? Like that. It looks like he's trying to kind of talk to him about setting guys, making guys go one way when you want to go another way. So maybe a little bit more of, some of the development and growth pass route running for Saquon. I also am fascinated that the defending Super Bowl champions, and I know they don't like to be talked about that, I think that's one of the reasons why they are where they are as an organization, is like that constant growth to get better. Saquon just had one of the great seasons all time. And he's like, AJ, can you teach me a little bit about the route running nuance? That constant chasing of improvement. But that was cool to watch.
There are people that could say that's like this is just sort of like white noise and it's not sincere. But if ever there was a time in which a head coach and a quarterback just won the Super Bowl and still felt like they didn't get the credit and the respect that they deserved, this is probably one of those situations.
It's a good example.
Right? And again, I'm just like, they have a chip on their shoulder. They are immensely motivated by not what's taken place in the past, but to further prove, which they can do so via performance in the future. So this team, again, listen, they actually play the games, but there is no reasons why, as long as the principals stay healthy in Philadelphia, this team is not playing for big stakes come January, maybe.
You see Jalen Hurts on the screen there. Do we have concerns, you guys, about another coordinator for Jalen Hurts? It's like the age-old tip. I don't know. It's like 11 in a row where he's had a different one every year.
It's unbelievable.
No.
You're not worried about it. Okay.
He seems to be so conditioned to it that it's just part of the course. And you know what I think also here? Okay, so we were just talking about the fact that, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni don't get their credit. Maybe we should give Nick Sirianni a little bit more credit.
Yeah.
He's not, exactly. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think he cares about the contract a lot more than the credit. He got the contract.
Well, of course. Okay, so look,
He might care about the credit more than the contract.
He cares about the money. We all care about the money. But the point of the matter is, there's some professional pride here, too.
Of course.
And he is like he hears when people say that, well, here's another offensive coordinator. Is it going to disrupt the kind of development that we want this offense to undergo? And he's sitting there going, hello, hey, wait a minute. I am the head coach. I do have an offensive background.
Correct.
And I have been a consistent mainstay here.
Sure.
Yeah, good point. Let's throw the schedule up on the screen, you guys, as we're seeing them run off the field a little bit here. They're going to go into
picking
some
every
more
game
drills.
right now?
Let's do it.
17-0.
I'm
Just
going
say
to hold
blindly.
you guys to all of your picks that you make right here. But I do want to remind people just what's coming. Of course, that week one on Thursday night against the Cowboys. Then right after that, they go to the Chiefs. They got the Rams. That's a great offense. The Buccaneers we expect to be good. The Broncos are going to be a good team.
Yep.
The Giants have a great defense. Well, we'll see what their offense looks like. The Vikings. This is a murderer's row all the way until that bye in week 9. It doesn't get much easier after that.
Yeah, it's too good of an organization, and it's too good across the line of scrimmage for me to sit there and say, I do think that Rams game is interesting just because you can sit there and say, NFC Championship game preview. But this is a football team that, you just saw that last drill where they were just dumping the ball off, catching, turning, cross-covering, running through contact. It just seems like an organization and a team that is obsessed with the small things and the details and the basics and the fundamentals. It doesn't matter who they play.
I've